poles. And more specifically, all the poles on the boat that I have. The one that's missing is the spinnaker pole. We're not going to touch that because that spinnaker pole is quite a specific specialist pole. And as you saw in the last video, it also works with, as a boom to boom out the mizzen as well. So we're not going to touch that pole. We're going to leave that as it is. But this sort of is my little sort of screw together pole system where I've got ends. So I've got two ends here, and I was going to sort of make some more, and this was like the other end of the pole. Now that screws in to the ends of this pole, and then we did originally have this sleeve that was, I'm not going to put it on, you'll see in a minute, that was permanently attached here, and that gave it the lateral, strength, because if you just screw these together, they just snap. Obviously, it's just not going to work like that. But this gave the pole the pull and push strength. Now, the reason this has failed, well, first of all, you probably see threaded inserts and these sorts of things. If you want stainless steel ones, they are horrendously expensive. So these are sort of like the standard ones you can buy, zincy gold, zinc style ones. And, they are corroding. They're starting to corrode badly enough to make screwing this in quite awkward. These are also quite hard work to put together. The thread on here, you have to you're screwing around for ages before they get tight. Now, the biggest problem was this sleeve. So if we had the sleeve permanently attached, then the problem we had was if this screw wasn't bang on perfect central, it just, by the time the other end came into here, it just wouldn't screw in to this side. It just wouldn't marry up, and it's proven really difficult to get both sides of these absolutely perfect. In fact, it's proved impossible for me. So what I then did was create this sort of slidey sleeve that had just enough friction to sort of let me screw them together, and then it would slide up, and that was what this thing was here for. It would slide up and slot on a screw that was on one side of the pole. However, that also hasn't worked, and the reason that it also hasn't worked is all of these poles have they've expanded. So this one's, I don't know why. This I've never used. So you can see there's no scratching of the varnish, nothing at all. There's not even any little holes in the wood here like this one. But this has expanded, and I think the wood does just expand as the summer comes and it contracts, when winter comes. This one has just been nigh on impossible getting it back on. That's as far as I can get it on. It was a good idea, but it just hasn't worked. So, over here I've got a whole bunch of aluminium tubes. I found a metal wholesaler, who's been really good, and I've literally got all of these tubes for the price I was getting a tiny tube for on eBay. So yeah, look, I mean, you live and learn, so what I've got is a range of tube sizes. Now, most importantly, what I've actually got are two thick ones here and here, and then I got four thinner ones, 225mm outside diameter and 225.4mm outside diameter. These are basically an inch, a UK inch, and these are 25mm, more metric. And you may now have noticed I've got one tube sliding nicely inside the other. You need to have an overlap, but I don't think we need too much overlap. So let's move this one away. Let's get that. I'm going to push this all the way out. I think I've got just enough room so this will come all the way out. There we go. So all the way out. If we put it in 20 millimeters, which is roughly to say that point there, I'll just put a little mark on it because of the length of these. In fact, just hang on a minute. I've got a ruler here. Let me double check the length of that. Yeah, that's it's about 20 centimeters. So if we put that in like that, then just give that a little. Yeah, that's rigid. That's going to work. And remember, we're only going to have a metre out here. So this is brilliant. And then this will come down a metre. So the whole thing, when collapsed up, will be 1 metre 10. Because we can have this as 1 metre 10. And this is 1 metre 10. And then that will give us an overlap of 20 centimetres with 2 metres overall length. And there it is. There's the pole going in there. Well, what's to stop us from actually putting a piece of this pole onto the end of here? To this pole, we'll have little ends, and then those ends could be interchangeable. So actually, we only ever use this 2 poles for our telescopic pole. We can have a boat hook end and a jibstick end, and that would give us, that would be the equivalent then of taking out all of these 3 poles. So we would actually get rid of a pole, but actually stowage wise we'd be getting rid of 2 poles because it's telescopic. To one end we'll be fitting this. To the other end we need to find those little ends that would be these, and we'll have to work out how we're going to do that, but hopefully we can reuse this, I'm hoping anyway. I think all we need to do really is find a sleeve that will go over there, like I've just discussed. And then we have got ourselves a pole system, a telescopic pole system. There's one negative to using these aluminium poles, and that is they sink. So if you drop one of these over the side of the boat, then that's it, it's gone. If you drop these wooden ones over the side of the boat, they float. Now, some would argue if you drop anything over the side of the boat at sea, you're probably going to lose it. There's a high chance you're going to lose it anyway. And, at the end of the day, I'm starting to realise that making the poles out of wood isn't going to work. And therefore, the aluminium is the way to go. The end of the day, if we lose something over the side, we lose something over the side, don't we? What do? There's not much you can do about that. So, so that's exciting. What we've now got to do is find a way of locking that into position. So I'm going to show you what I've got in terms of an idea now. So here we are, back at the workshop desk. And I've got a few things here that spring to mind that I've actually got from C-Screw. There we go. So the first thing is, these are all 5mm in profile. They are the smallest stroke longest enough things I can find. This is a screw. We could actually throw this, or a bolt should I say, or a machine screw. We could actually drill a 5mm hole, and where the telescopic element is, we can just put one of those in and then just tighten it up like that. That might be all we need to do. Now we could simplify that by perhaps creating a drop pin instead. The only issue I've got with these drop pins are they are hellishly expensive. Like literally these small ones are horrendously priced. The stainless steel ones anyway. So, I did splash the boat up, but the truth is I'm going to probably send this one back. They were so expensive. The other idea I've got is these. These are, I think they're called, are they cotter pin or beta pin? If we can find one of these. So I got 3 lengths, but the smaller lengths, I don't think they're going to work. If we could get one of those to click over. The negative is they've got these little nasty little sharp bits, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But the beauty of these are they're cheap and they're really quick to pull out and put in. So they're the ideas I've got. Oh, they also need a much smaller hole. I think these are a 3mm hole that they use. So, the only thing really left to do now is to actually you know, drill some holes, slide some poles, and give these a go and see if we can get something to work. So we're back over at the metal poles. I've measured 130 there, and I've measured 130 off the large pole as well. Reason I've measured it 130 is this pole, when it's together with the top, is about 110. I don't know why it's 110, but it is 110. I figured we can always chop a little bit off, or not telescope it as long if we need to. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 130, 130 with a 20 centimetre overlap. That will give us 110 as a pole length, which is what we want. So we need to now go and cut these up. There we go. As if by magic, we've got two 1.3 metre poles. Now, my saw is quite good at cutting aluminium, but we do need to just alter those edges there. They've got burrs and whatnot on them, but it'll still go together this way. So there's the pole, like that, and they're the identical width, so that is as long as the pole will be. The pole's quite light, so I'm happy with that. And now we've not got all that length on it, it looks, yeah, that's going to be way strong enough. So the next thing to do is measure. We've measured 10 in there. We need to make sure this is in 10 centimetres. And then we can drill a hole all the way through. And we'll start with a 3.2mm hole. And that will allow us to test the little those snap ring things. And then we'll have to cut a 5mm hole or a 6mm hole if we're going to have to use the other things. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm just going to use one, and I'm just going to see if we can get that to snap through. Or my fear is these are just not big enough. There we go. I mean, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not actually convinced at how easily they'll go through. Yeah, what would be better is just having something that just pushed all the way through without having this bit on the side. Makes it quite difficult to keep this bit straight, because I think the pipe is just too big. If, for instance, if we just do it on this pipe, I bet it's much easier. No, I think this pipe's way too big for that. And let's just check we can get this through. There we go. So that looks much better, doesn't it? The trick is now to actually drill a hole that will match up with those, because this hole does not match up wherever it's gone with this side. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that's drop pins. Oh, I know what it is. It's because it's the wrong way round. There we go. Yeah, so it's because when I drilled in, it's slightly off centre, which means you've got to have it the right way round. So I'll have to just colour code it, make sure the pole's the right way round. There we go. Look at that. That's going to stop it going forward and back. Doesn't make much noise either. And look at the strength. Oh, way more than the wood. So that is our pole. Now look, when we're finished with it, we remove that and we just let it slide in. There we go. So that's the inside. Oh, look how wet it is inside. I realised that the inner diameter of this side is the right diameter for this. So it makes no sense to make a shim so that fits in there. Now, the other reason this is a good idea is actually this is the end we want permanent. And the reason for that is so we can use pieces of that pole to slide into the bottom, and then we'll have the boat hook, the jib stick, things like that. So we can then really get rid of all the poles, and this will be one big multiple pole. You can see the little hole in there. This is where the pin will go in. So we need to glue that in. And we need to also round this bottom bit off. So I'm going to cut this off first and round it off, and then we're going to leave this to sort of set in some epoxy. There we go. Got to be careful, it's red hot, this thing. That's the end that will be pushed through into the sail eyelet. There you go, and it's nice and super smooth, that is. So let's go and get this glued up into this now. We're not going to need much of this, I don't think. Let's have a little look. Then we're going to pop this in and hopefully you'll see it squeeze out. There we go. Because we've actually got quite a bit on here, and we're going to just let that coat the nail itself. Hopefully, yeah, that will give us a good little spike that will last us for a while. Just double checking we haven't got too much around there. Yeah, we haven't. Looks really good job, really solid. There isn't really any pull strength on that, and it's really well covered there as well. So that's going to slot in there. Now what I'm going to do is get this little bit of Gorilla Tape, seal that edge up, and then what I'm now going to try and do is pour a little bit of epoxy that will hopefully go down the gaps there and try and hold this in. And then what we'll need then is a couple of little screws in here. Now one problem we've got with this is the screws will stop this sliding. Let's come down here. Oh my god, let's move my coffee up. So the screws are going to stop this sliding in. So if you've got a screw there, it's going to hit that. So there's two ways around it. We either make them countersunk and we try and get the screws to slide in, or we let this just protrude a little bit and we make sure the hole is sort of here. Now we haven't got much room in here, you know, we've got literally that fingertips worth, so we could put a hole in there, so you know this is to here, and then put a couple of little screws in here just to hold this in fast, or we could fill this with a little bit of epoxy and rely on that to hold this in. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have to use our nice runny West Systems epoxy. So let's get that made up. So let's get this in here. Let's get the epoxy made up, and let's see if we can get that to kind of just seep down the little edges here. I'm going to put a little bit in there, and we're going to hopefully see that seep down. And I think that's probably enough, that little tiny bit. And hopefully we'll see that seep down into those gaps. I mean, we should see that. There's a decent little sort of gap there. and hopefully that will stick that in. If not, you know, we'll revert to plan B and we'll start to think about countersinking those screws.